All right. Hi, everyone. And thanks, Surya, for your kind introduction. And thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure being here and talking to you all. I hope you can all see my screen. I'm sharing my slides. Okay, perfect. So Surya talked a little bit about my background here. I can just skip it. So like I said, I've been fully focused on OKRs for the past 3 years and helping companies implement, manage, and improve OKRs. And I got my certification from OKRs.com and work with them, and also work freelance. So I moved from US to the Middle East to be closer to the companies in the region, like Middle East, Europe, Turkey, India, all these great countries. Okay, here's the agenda for my talk. So basically, first I'm gonna set the context, tell you a bit about the case I'm going to present. Then I'm gonna take you through the OKRs journey that the company actually went for more than 2 years now. I've been working with them. And I'm gonna talk about their OKR levels, at what levels they set OKRs, how did we do the alignment. I'm gonna give you some examples of the challenges we had with teams, and lastly talk about some success factors in this implementation, and share with you some tips that might be helpful for you as well. So for the context, unfortunately I cannot share the company name, country, or details because it's confidential. I don't have permission from the company to share them. But I can tell you that it is a B2B tech startup based in the Middle East, and they're in finance industry, and they're basically developing fintech software, even online banking stuff, payment apps. They do integrations between different financial entities, and they have a scale to more than 1,000 employees. So they're becoming a large company and still, growing very fast. Now, notice that every company is unique and they have unique requirements. They have, a unique way of managing the company, and so every OKR implementation would be unique. So basically, every time that I approach a company, we would customize the OKR framework for them and have a customized approach. So it's not like we have this exact framework and these best practices and we copy paste. I don't do that. So of course there are these best practices and we would use it, but sometimes in some cases you might actually not use a best practice. You may actually go the opposite way. Why? Because that is what that works for that company. Okay. So in this case, you may see some of the stuff are not according to best practice, and it is okay because we figured that these stuff works for them. And of course, some of them are best practices. Okay, so let's get into it. So their journey actually started with an awareness session. So they're part of a holding company, and that holding company approached me and said, hey, we heard OKRs are great. I don't know, Google has done it, or one of our VPs has read the Measure What Matters book. We think it's great. We want to implement it in our, all of our portfolio companies. And I said, okay, wait a minute. You really don't want to do a big bang, Have you educated, those companies, their execs? Do you know if they really need OKRs? Do they have a good reason why they need OKRs? And of course, the answer was no. So they were kind of going to force it on them. And I said, okay, let's just wait, take a step back and let me do an awareness session for the execs of those companies, and then see, who's really interested, which one of them volunteer to implement OKRs. I mean, you really don't want to go like a big bang. And they accepted that, so I did this awareness session. And after that, so the CEOs and the VPs actually attended from portfolio companies. And after that, a few companies actually were interested and said, hey, we want to implement it. And this case is one of them. So I had some meetings with their CEO and the VPs, and we talked about OKRs and the implementation and everything. And generally, when we work with companies, we want to set OKRs at the company level, or actually start there. as the pilot. So, work with the leadership team, executives, and then, gradually come to, department or team level. But in their case, although the CEO was supporting, he was not that committed. So I felt that he's not going to dedicate time. So I told him, there's all these workshops, you have to spend this much time. And I felt, no, he's not going to do it. And a couple of other VPs were the same. Like, we're just too busy. We'll send our team to the workshop. We cannot come. And I felt, okay, there's a high chance that they fail. But there was one of the VPs for organizational excellence, and she was really into OKRs. She asked very good questions. She was very motivated. And I figured, okay, maybe we can start with her instead of starting at the company level and the whole, VPs and leadership team. And that's what we decided to do. We said we will pilot from that VP and the departments under her. And then gradually we will go to other departments and cover more teams. And even inside her domain, so she had different departments such as strategy, HR, PMO, quality management, process improvement, all this stuff. So for the pilot, we didn't even do all of those. We picked a few teams for the pilot. And we did the training, and I did some coaching sessions, helped them, write OKRs, refine them, finalize them, the calendar, the cadence, everything. And we together we customized the OKR framework for them, and we launched the first cycle. So the first cycle wasn't quite a success, it wasn't quite a failure, something in between, and that is okay. So this first cycle is always a learning cycle. And a lot of times the first cycle actually fails. And again, that is okay because it's new, it's a big change, people are not used to it, a lot of unforeseen stuff happens. But it's important that we learn from that, we collect the lesson learned, and we figure out what we can do to make it better. So in the second cycle, things typically look much better. So in first cycle, people will, we don't know, maybe, they were like this. And then in the second cycle, they started to see the benefit, they started to actually like it. And it's interesting that for the second cycle, we still kept those few pilot teams. So we didn't do any rollout in the second cycle. Just wanted to make sure they get it right. We again refined that framework for them. And then in the third cycle, we gradually rolled it out to other departments under that VP, and in fourth cycle, we went outside of that. We started working with other VPs and other departments. So literally, we do a very gradual rollout, and then we did some, expansion to a lot of things and make it bigger. Let's get to the levels. So you may have heard or you may have read about, OKR levels. So we do company, we do department, we do teams, etc. So at their company, we did something which is not very common, and we basically had OKRs in only one level, right? At only team level. And then you may ask, okay, why did we do it? How did we align it with company strategies and other stuff? So basically, they have a 3 years strategic plan, which is high level, and we told them that, hey, can you extract the goals and priorities for the next year from your 3-year strategy? And they said, yeah. So, and we said, okay, that is good enough for the CEO and execs. They can stick to that, 1-year plan, but they need to extract some priorities and goals and what matters the most from that 1-year plan and communicate it to the teams, right? So the teams have quarterly OKRs, but at the VP level, we decided that the VPs don't need OKRs themselves because they are aligned with the company strategy and they are extracting priorities for the short term that are needed by the teams, okay? So that is how we did the basically vertical alignment from CEO down to the teams. And we didn't do individual OKR. So by now you probably know that the best practice is not to take OKRs to the individual level. There are many good reasons for it. Different companies have done it and rolled back. It's a whole different subject. I don't get to it now. But we kept it at team level. And I think team level is the most important level because the work is actually being done in those teams, provided that you could do the alignment. Now, under this VP, we had some departments. And for the smaller departments, which were like, I don't know, 6, 7 people, we said, okay, this looks like a team, although it's a department in the organization chart, but it really is a team. So we said, okay, you guys are good with one set of OKRs. But then we had, for example, HR department. Under HR, we had different teams. But still, we talked to the HR manager and we figured that, okay, each team could have a set of OKRs, but the HR manager himself, he didn't need OKRs, okay? So again, we had only one level. But when we did the rollout and expansion, there were a few exceptions. There were a few departments that they said, hey, we want to have OKRs at the department level and also on the team level. So I would say mostly one level, and in a few cases as an exception, we had 2 levels, like department and team. And we also did the what we call horizontal alignment, meaning that we align different teams and departments with each other. Basically, the important thing is to open communication lines. Typically, or even sometimes most of the time, people don't talk to each other, okay? There's the silo effect. Everyone's just focusing on their team. And the way the execs actually break down the KPIs and goals, they're just done vertically, okay? This department has this, that team has that, and they're not in sync with each other. So we opened the communication lines, we made sure people are talking, we made the OKRs transparent, we make sure that they are sharing their requirements with each other so they understand what they need from each other. And then at the end, with some advanced team, we did some shared OKRs, meaning that there's a set of OKRs assigned to multiple teams, and those multiple teams collaborate together in order to achieve that OKR. It's not like that, that team has its own OKRs, the other team has own. So basically they get together and together they have that OKR. Okay, so this is about that. Let me give you some basically examples of the challenges that we had with the teams. So again, when you implement OKRs, there are tons of challenges you face, right? It is like any other change that you want to make in a company, right? Like process improvement, implementing a software, all of these are changes, and OKR is like that, okay? So for that, it means you have to really manage change, and you have to do, awareness, training, communication. You have the project plan. You have to define, all the important roles that are needed there. And I can talk about tons of challenges relating to that. But here, I'm gonna stick to examples of challenges we had with different teams, right? So support team in this case, so the support team, so we trained them, we coached them and everything, but then they came back with so many OKRs, right? They knew they have to limit it, we had emphasized on that. But again, when they were launching the cycle, we were kind of surprised. They had many objectives, each objective had many key results. So we sat and talked to them and asked, kind of why you did this. And then they were not comfortable talking about it, but eventually after some discussion, they said, hey, we want to make sure everybody sees all the work we do, right? And they basically wanted to show off what they're doing, and they're doing all this important stuff. And we told them, hey, you really don't need to do this. I mean, OKR is meant to be very limited because they're going to give you the focus and the priorities, right? Otherwise, if you put everything in it, you will kill the OKR spirit. You will kill the focus, which is really key. So that is really important, and I think you will face it with many companies. It happens a lot. People think they have to put everything in OKRs, whereas we work with them to make sure that they take out the stuff that are really not supposed to be in OKRs. The STDS status stuff, all the projects they're doing. They didn't need to put all their KPIs or all the goals in OKRs. So it was hard, actually. It took them one cycle to be able to get over that. And also we told them that, hey, everyone is aware that OKRs only include the highest priority. So everyone knows, and when they look at your OKR, they understand these are not all the work you do. So that was one challenge with them. Accounting department, or the accounting team, I would say. So with them, basically they're doing a very operational work, okay? They're not doing a lot of, changes or growth or improvement or innovation. It's the nature of their work, right? and they were confused and they were trying to write OKRs. And we said, hey, you guys probably don't need to have OKRs. I mean, you are doing this operational work. Maybe you have some, metrics or KPIs, or you just monitor what you're doing, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you really don't need OKRs, and that happens with different, teams or departments. I mean, you really don't need to force OKRs on every single team or every single department. Just give the teams or the departments that have a good reason to have OKRs. Mainly, though, the departments on the value stream of the company, such as design, development, support, marketing, customer happiness. All these guys, they're probably on OKRs because they are the core of the company and they impact the growth. But others could be optional. Like HR is something always in the middle. Some companies want to put OKRs for HR, which is okay. Some don't, but anyways. So that's that. The product team. So from the very beginning, we got a lot of pushback from the product team, and the reason was they had their own goal-setting system that their CTO has transferred from another company that he was working in. He brought that in, and so they were using that, which was something customized. I mean, it's not a method as such. And they were also telling us, hey, we are doing a Scrum, and we don't need OKRs, we don't need another thing. And so we got a lot of pushback. And what we did is that we decided to kind of hold off on them. And when we did a few cycles, we wanted to create some success stories and make it work, and then go to them. So the CTO was very hard. He was, old school. He really didn't want to make changes. So we had that problem. Although we involved, the VP as our executive sponsor, although we involved the CEO, we did all the discussion, but he really, deep inside, he didn't want to do it. So that was actually a big problem, because other departments and teams, when they were writing OKRs, they were telling us, hey, yeah, we can write these, but if the product teams don't collaborate with us, don't sync with us, then we cannot achieve our OKRs. So we decided to do this very slowly and kind of indirectly. So first we said, okay, we told the other teams to share their OKRs with product teams and tell them, hey guys, these are OKRs, these are our goals, and these are our requirements from you. We need you to do this and that. And then just open the communication lines and have some regular meetings with them. And gradually we involve the product teams in the OKR workshop, and we say, hey, why don't you guys come and sit, give some feedback, see if it makes sense that we put these goals, see if you can give us this requirement. So slowly we got their involvement, and then moving ahead, we said, okay, so you have this goal setting system and we have these OKRs. Let's kind of sync them. Why don't we add our OKRs to your system without even calling it OKR? So basically we converted the OKRs to some targets and goals that they could understand and put them in their system. At least that way everything was in sync. And then at the next step we said, okay, why don't we create some shared OKRs and together you guys can have a set of OKRs which is shared between you. And then, gradually they started liking it. And then some of the product teams came and said, hey, we like this OKR thing. Why don't we have OKRs? We want OKR training. So it was a long journey involving them, but we were, very patient with that. We didn't jump in, we didn't force them, and it paid off at the end. Now, the sales team. So the sales VP was telling us, hey, I really want OKRs. I'm all in. We did the training. He sat down in all the training workshops, was very active. He was pushing his team, but his team were too busy at that time. They were really under the water. They didn't have time. They couldn't really focus. So they would miss some of the workshops. They come in these workshops. They're on the phone. It was a disaster, but still he insisted that, hey, we want to participate in OKRs, we want to have this cycle. So we launched the first cycle, but it took them more than a month to write their OKRs. They were missing the check-ins. So at the end we said, hey, maybe it's not a good time for you guys to get involved. And we had a lot of discussions, and we decided that just put them on hold. We told them, hey, just don't do OKRs yet, and they were, in a very bad situation, and they said until end of the year, it's not going to change. And we said, okay, just forget OKRs until the end of the year. And next year, when you have more bandwidth and capacity, then you guys can, come back, and then we do a refresher training, and then we get you involved. So that's what happened with the salespeople. And the infrastructure people, there were two issues. One is that, of course, they do a lot of maintenance. And maintenance, or keeping the lights on, doing a steady state, by default, it means it doesn't sound like OKR. Because with OKRs, you want to put something that helps you, grow, make big changes, innovate, improvements. And this is not the case typically for maintenance, typically. So we told them, hey, if you're doing a big change in your maintenance work, then you might define OKRs. If not, just don't do it. So for them, it was kind of optional. Also, because the nature of their work was project-based, they tend to write OKRs very task-based and output-based instead of writing them result-based or outcome-based. So okay, we're gonna implement this. We're gonna do this. It was basically 0 or 1, or at best it was person progress, but it was about getting some job done. It was not about the result of that. So again, it took us a lot of time to make them understand and train them on this, so that they can really write results and outcomes. Okay, so let me share some success factors and tips with you. So like any other change, a sponsorship or executive sponsorship is the key success factor. Okay, if you have it, there's a good chance you succeed. If you don't have it, there's a high chance you fail. So we had great sponsorship from the VP that we started with, from the CEO, and eventually from the board. So there were all these reports coming to the board. The board, liked OKRs, and they were asking VP, okay, what are your OKRs? Share with us. Like any other change, implementing OKRs is a big change. And for that, you need a roadmap. So everyone can understand, what are the steps, how you're rolling it out, what are the events that are going to happen. So we had that roadmap, we had a project plan, and we had a project lead for the OKRs, was my point of contact. That really helped to make sure we implement it smoothly and on time. We had an official OKR calendar. So basically what we did was we went ahead and booked all the OKR meetings in advance before starting the cycle. We booked everyone's calendar. So it was, the weekly check-ins, mid-cycle review workshop, end of cycle review, retro, whatever you call it, and then the workshops needed to set OKRs for the next cycle. Everything that they needed to attend, and they had like monthly meetings with the VP, quarterly with the CEO, all about OKRs. So we booked all of them on employees' calendar. So when they start the cycle, they couldn't say, "Oh, we are busy" or "Our calendar is full." Everyone, has them on their calendar. So that helps a lot to keep, to keep that discipline for all those meetings. Now, so transparency always helps a lot. You want to make sure that the OKRs are transparent as much as possible, because different teams need to look at each other's OKRs to understand how they can help each other, how they can collaborate, understand what are the priorities for each team. And in this case, there was a lot of resistance, but at the end we managed to do it because it adds a lot of value. Now, sometimes some companies don't like it, or at least for the ones that has some sensitive numbers, you could mask the numbers but still keep the OKR. And the next thing is execution. So this particular company was really good at execution. So under each key results, you will have some task, action plan, initiative, projects. It's really important to document those, track those, monitor those, report on those, because if they are done correctly and completely, then there's a high chance that you meet your OKR targets. If you don't document it, people don't know how to achieve OKR. They write it and they update it and everything, but they haven't defined how exactly to achieve that. So a few other tips. So always go top down and bottom up. So like I said, we communicated priorities and strategies top down, but then we let the teams write their own OKRs, which was bottom up. And of course, they presented it to management, they refined it, they got feedback, they finalized together. Make sure you keep OKRs alive. In this case, like I said, we had a very good discipline with all the weekly check-ins, monthly meetings, reports, and everything. So it was pretty alive. We had very good visibility throughout the company about OKRs. And then make it as simple as lightweight as possible. So we really tried hard on this, right? So like I said, we kept it at one level. We tried to have a very simple template for people to use it. We didn't use a tool. We made it, we made them use Google Sheets, and Google Sheets works very well. If you don't have so many users or so many teams, Google Sheets, based on my experience, is really good. So each team or department has a sheet, and then they had this template. We made the check-ins very quick. So everything was very simple and lightweight. It really helped. And we did a lot of internal communication. We did even, physical posters. We did wallpapers, where we shared some tips and lessons learned in their internal portal. We, made sure everyone is getting OKR newsletters and updates. And last but not least, we did some celebrations at the end of the cycle. We recognized people, and even so the HR team, they had some badges for outstanding employees in different fields. So we defined an OKR hero badge. So we would give this badge based on some predefined criteria to the people who were really outstanding in OKRs. Okay, thank you very much for listening to this case study. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions or messages, if you have any questions, comments, anything, just message me on LinkedIn, and I would love to be in touch with you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm on mute. Okay, I say thank you very much for that insightful speech. It was great to hear about your insights about the change management piece of this OKR implementation. This is the part we generally forget. So it is great to plan ahead. The communication, the change management is really important step. So unfortunately, we don't have any time for questions, but it's great that you shared your LinkedIn account. So our participants may reach you via LinkedIn. Thank you, Omid.
No problem.
Was great seeing you in our stage. Yeah.
Thank you and good luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Çok teşekkür ediyorum. Şimdi aslında çok zamanında gidiyoruz. Her şey harika. Arada bir hatırlatma da yapmak isterim sizlere. Bir sonraki konuşmaya geçmeden önce. Aslında bizim buradaki amacımız bu şirket kültürü dönüşümü, şirket kültürü, çünkü hep şunu konuştuk aslında başından beri. Gerçekten baktığımızda bu şirketteki kültür dönüşümünü yapabilmek konu. Yani OKR bir metodoloji ama aynı zamanda da bir felsefe, değil mi? Daha çevik olabilme, paylaşabilme, odaklanabilme felsefesi. Biz bunun için bir Slack topluluğu oluşturduk ekip olarak. Bu Slack topluluğuna kayıt olmak ve aslında bugünden sonra da bu konuşmalara şahit olmak isterseniz ya da katkıda bulunmak isterseniz lütfen OKR Forum Türkiye sayfasından bu Slack topluluğuna gelin ve kendi deneyimlerinizle paylaşın ve bu şirket kültüründeki değişim konusunda daha sık konuşalım diyorum. Ve şimdi aslında çok sevdiğimiz, hakikaten kültürünü de çok sevdiğimiz bir organizasyondan iki kişiyi davet edeceğim. Yasemin Burcu Demirok ve Akar Şümşet. Atölye İstanbul'dan kendileri katılacaklar aramıza. Atölye'de OKR projesini uzun zamandır, OKR dönüşümünü uzun zamandır yapan bir şirket. Yasemin'in rolü biraz daha aslında şu ana kadar bahsedilen OKR şampiyonluğu, yani içeride bu değişimi yapacak iş biriminden birisi olarak hakikaten önemli bir isim. Onların daha insan odaklı bir OKR kültürü oluşturmak üzerine deneyimlerini dinleyeceğiz.